history on this one. This is one of the most horrifying uh, moments on TV. No, wait, live TV. So listen, what we want you guys to do, man, is we want you guys to hit those subscribe buttons, man. We want you to be part of this, man. We're a new channel. We're growing. Things are happening. We're starting to see a lot of people jumping on here. We want you to be part of it. Be our first 500 because we're headed towards 1,000. And listen, man, once we hit that 1,000 members, man, it's going to open up the floodgates for us, man, to just start doing bigger and better things. We can get to more content and better content for you. So listen, please hit that subscribe button. Second of all, on each clip, we want your feedback, what you felt about that clip. We got like 20, 25 clips we want to go through. Check them out. They're good ones. Here we go.
Today we are going to look at the most horrifying moments in live TV history. From a teenage girl whose innocent study session became a nation's nightmare to a veteran journalist whose final shot captured his own tragic end. It was October 13th, 2008, in Santo André, São Paulo, Brazil, and 15-year-old Eloa Cristina Pimentel was at home working on a school project with her friend Nayara Rodriguez da Silva and two male classmates. The afternoon study session was meant to be routine preparation for upcoming exams, with textbooks and notebooks scattered across the small apartment's dining table. Eloa was a bright student with dreams of becoming a teacher, her warm smile and infectious laughter making her popular among her peers at the local high school. The cramped apartment on Rua Antonio Cardoso had become
Got that
Eloa's
fruit, bro.
sanctuary after her family moved there 3 years earlier. Her mother worked double shifts at a local textile factory to support them, often leaving Eloa to care for her younger siblings while maintaining excellent grades. Despite the financial struggles, Eloa remained optimistic about her future, spending hours tutoring younger students and volunteering at the neighborhood community center. Her teachers consistently praised her maturity and dedication, seeing in her the potential to break the cycle of
All
poverty
right.
that trapped so many in their working-class neighborhood. The relationship with Lindenberg had begun when Eloa was just 11 years old, an age gap that should have raised immediate
She got a bomb
concerns among
name.
adults in their community. What started as innocent childhood affection had gradually transformed into something darker as Lindenberg's
Uh-oh.
possessive tendencies emerged.
I knew
Friends
it.
and family members later recalled how he would become jealous when Eloa spoke to other boys, monitoring her activities and demanding to know her whereabouts at all times. When Eloa finally found the courage to end the relationship at age 13, Lindenberg's behavior became increasingly erratic and threatening. But that afternoon, their quiet study session took a dark turn when Eloa's 22-year-old ex-boyfriend, Lindenberg Fernandez Alves, suddenly entered the apartment with a firearm. The relationship had ended 2 years earlier when Eloa was just 13, but
What?
Lindenberg had never accepted the breakup. Reports later revealed he had become obsessed with her, unable to move on from their
What? They said 2 years later? Man, come on, man. 2 years later. This guy, man, listen, chat. I know our people too, man. Latinos and we love hard, man. But come on, guys, man. After 2 years, bro, you ain't found someone else, man, to fall in love with or whatever, get into, and something wrong, man. Something wrong with the mind, man. That's why, man, you guys that have girls, like I have girls, you have to be very careful, man. These days, man, they got but 2 years? Oh my lord, man.
teenage romance that had grown
My God.
increasingly possessive and
Sheesh.
unhealthy. Lindenberg let the two
Sheesh.
boys leave, but kept Eloa and Nayara inside, starting a hostage situation that would last 5 days and be broadcast across
Oh
Brazil.
my
Police
God.
quickly responded, with the Special Tactical Actions Group, known as GATE, taking over and beginning negotiations, hoping to
Jeez.
resolve the situation peacefully. The next evening, Nayara was released unharmed, but 2 days later, police made a surprising and dangerous move. They asked the 15-year-old to go back into the apartment, saying her presence might help calm Lindenberg. As the situation dragged on, media attention
You gotta be
exploded.
kidding me.
News outlets provided live updates day and night, and the case became a national obsession.
They
Things
took
went
that
even
girl
further
back in
when
there?
Brita TV journalist Sonia Abro called Lindenberg live on air while he was still inside with the girls. She spoke with both him and Eloa, and the call was broadcast to the whole country. Legal experts later said the call interfered with the police operation, with a civil case filed against Abro, accusing her of putting lives at risk. By October 17th, the standoff had gone on for over 100 hours. Police said they heard gunshots and decided to break in. Gate, along with military police shock troops, forced their way inside. Lindenberg resisted, and during the struggle, he used the firearm. Nayara was injured in the face, but managed to leave the apartment alive. Eloa was hit twice, once in the head and once in the lower body.
Oh, man.
Cameras were rolling as she was carried out unconscious and taken to a hospital, but she didn't survive. On October 18th, doctors declared her brain dead at 11:30
Pobrecita,
p.m.,
man.
and she was removed from life support. Her organs were later donated and saved 7 lives. Around 10,000 people attended Eloa's funeral. Nayara survived and went through a long recovery, and in 2018, she was awarded 150,000 Brazilian reais in damages after the court found the state responsible for what she had gone through. Lindenberg was sentenced to 39 years and 3 months in prison, and to this day, Eloa's story remains one of Brazil's most disturbing and tragic cases.
Hit the chat, man. Hit the comments, chat.
In Yangon, Myanmar, and for 10 days, crowds had taken to the streets in peaceful protest. Buddhist monks in red robes led the demonstrations, walking calmly and chanting for freedom. What began as protests against rising fuel prices had become something much bigger. People were now calling for democracy, frustrated with poverty, military rule, and the lack of basic rights. In the middle of all this was 50-year-old Kenji Nagai, a Japanese journalist who had arrived just 2 days earlier. He worked for a small outlet called APF News, and Kenji had spent years reporting from dangerous places: Afghanistan, Iraq, Palestine. His mission was always the same: go where others wouldn't and show what was really happening. He was known for his dedication to capturing the truth, no matter the personal risk involved. Kenji's colleagues often described him as fearless but never reckless, a man who understood the weight of documenting history as it unfolded. His small apartment in Tokyo was filled with awards and photographs from conflict zones around the world, each image telling a story of human suffering and resilience that mainstream media often overlooked. Despite offers from larger news organizations, Kenji remained loyal to APF News, believing that
it's a hard job.
journalism was crucial for exposing
Dangerous,
injustices
very
that
dangerous.
powerful governments preferred to keep hidden. The veteran war correspondent had developed an almost supernatural ability to sense when situations were about to turn violent, a skill that had kept him alive through countless dangerous assignments. His camera equipment was always within arm's reach, and he had trained himself to continue shooting, even under the most extreme circumstances. Friends back in Japan worried about his increasingly dangerous assignments, but Kenji felt compelled to bear witness to the struggles of oppressed people worldwide, viewing his work as a sacred duty rather than just a profession. That morning, Kenji stood near the Sula Pagoda in downtown Yangon, the area full of protesters waving flags with the peacock symbol linked to Aung San Suu Kyi's political party. Despite the tense mood, the crowd remained peaceful until military trucks showed up. Soldiers got out holding rifles and shields, and protesters stayed put, some yelling at the troops. The military government saw these gatherings not as peaceful, but as a direct threat, issuing a clear warning: leave in 10 minutes or face the consequences. Then came the military's response.
And they don't play over there.
Gas, then gunfire, first into the air, then directly into the crowd.
They start
Kenji
shooting
kept
people.
filming, his last recorded words caught on camera. The army has just arrived. The army is over there. They are heavily armed. Then the shooting began, and Kenji was hit and fell to the ground. Even then, witnesses say he
that's him
continued
right
to hold
there.
his camera, trying to document what was happening around him. A photo by Reuters photographer Adres Latif captured a haunting scene. Kenji lying on the ground, a soldier standing over him with rifle in hand, his camera still in his grip. In the next frame, the soldier walked away and Kenji didn't move again. At first, the Myanmar government claimed he had been caught in the crossfire, but video evidence later showed the truth. A soldier had pushed Kenji to the ground
Oh,
and shot him at close range. An autopsy in Japan confirmed this. The bullet had gone through his chest, hit his heart, and exited from his back. Kenji was the only foreigner to lose his life during the protests, with at least 9 others also dying. News of Kenji's death shocked people in Japan, with the government demanding answers that never came. Myanmar later apologized, but no action was taken.
wow,
In 2023, 16 years later, journalists said they had received Kenji's missing camera from someone who wanted to set things right. The camera was returned to his sister, and that final footage showed the protests, the chants, the chaos, and Kenji's final moments. No one has ever been held accountable, but Kenji's work hasn't been forgotten. The Burma Media Association created the Kenji Nagai Award to honor journalists in Myanmar.
Hit those comments, chat.
It was sometime in 2003 during an episode of Consejo de Mujeres, a Mexican daytime talk show aimed at women. The program typically covered topics like lifestyle, health, and beauty, and occasionally featured live animals for educational segments. On this particular day, 2 animal handlers from a local zoo were invited to introduce a young lion cub as part of a segment about...
Okay. Every time they bring a lion, a bear, something like this on live TV with people there, now it goes usually okay. But let me tell you the difference here right now, chat. Just listen to what I'm saying. There's a baby involved. You know, and I know, babies cry, they scream, and those type of noises will freak an animal out. For one, it'll sound like it's in distress. And what do these animals look for? That's what they look for when they hear something, another animal, they don't know what we are, or a human being or an animal, whatever, in distress. That means weakness. And an animal has that animal instinct inside of him. And they hear sounds like that, they go into stalk mode because they don't know how to separate that sound. In fact, you know, they're there just kind of tripping and they're getting pet, and, you know, then all of a sudden they hear this wah, wah, or whatever, you know, or this kid yelling or whatever it may be. But it's usually the crying and all that confuses the animal. I know this because I've seen it with dogs. You know, I've seen it where dogs, you know, are usually pretty peaceful, but a baby like throws them off. You know, a little kid crying or whatever, like touching them and crying, it throws them off like it's just too much. And I guarantee you that's what's gonna set this whole thing off.
Wildlife conservation. The handlers were seated with the lion between them, and nearby,
A
mother
lion.
sat holding her young daughter, who was calmly enjoying a lollipop while looking around the studio. Everything seemed fine. Despite being a cub, the lion was already large and powerful, sitting on a leash and appearing relaxed. The handlers and show hosts were calm, and the mother and her daughter showed no sign of fear. No safety barriers or protective measures were in place between the lion and the studio audience. But then something unexpected happened. The little girl let out a soft whimper, and the high-pitched sound caught the lion's attention. It stood up.
Chat. Oh my God. I have not seen this video. That's exactly what I just said. I know animals because I've been around animals all my life. And when I seen that baby, that's the first thing I thought was, that's a bad move. Because babies make weird sounds compared to what animals are used to. And the only thing they can relate that to is any type of crying or wailing. To them, it's a weak animal. And anything weak, they get to eat. If it's weak, they're going to eat. And that's what they go into hunting mode. Look at this lion's eyes. He hears that sound. Guaranteed, the minute he hears that sound, he's gonna stand up. Something's gonna awaken him, and it's gonna be that cry, that wailing. I just say, I have not seen this video, chat.
And stared directly at her. The handlers quickly tried to get it to settle down, and it obeyed for a moment. Then the child began to cry louder, and without
Watch.
warning,
Watch
the
him
lion
stand up.
lunged. It grabbed the girl's legs with its front paws
Yep.
and bit down. The studio
Yep.
filled with screams as the mother stood up and tried to pull her daughter close, but the lion
I would
didn't
not
let go.
have.
It pulled back, its grip unshaken. The handlers rushed in, one trying to pry open the lion's mouth, the other holding the animal's body. The child kept screaming as her mother clutched her tightly. The trainers, speaking rapidly in Spanish, repeated instructions like, "Stay calm and don't move," as they tried to control the situation. It took several moments before they could separate the animal from the child. One handler held the lion's head while the other pulled its body back. Eventually, they managed to get the lion to release its grip, and the girl was finally freed, crying and in shock. Her mother immediately checked her for injuries. What happened next left many viewers confused. The mother suddenly laughed. Some believed it was a reaction to the intense stress, a confused emotional response after what had just happened. Others were unsettled by how casual everyone on set seemed afterward. One of the handlers leaned in to hug both the mother and child, and the lion, still present, was even shown on camera again, while the child's cries continued in the background. The show awkwardly continued with forced laughter and uneasy smiles. Years later, when the footage was uploaded to YouTube, viewers began to notice unsettling details. Before the lion lunged, it had been staring at the child for several moments, and at one point the camera zoomed in on its face as if capturing something that was about to unfold.
I seen it. I
Though the
seen it
child
too.
wasn't seriously injured, specialists warned about the long-term emotional effects of such an event. Strangely, no legal action was ever taken. The lion
Man,
remained
I
with the
would have
handlers, and
sued the
child's
hell
identity
out
was
of
never
that zoo.
revealed. She was never publicly seen again.
Wow.
It was 1979 in Clearwater, Florida, when a new Christian-themed kids show called Joy Junction aired on the Christian television network. It featured colorful characters like Sheriff Dawn, Professor Cloudhopper, Whistler Dan, and a ventriloquist named Ron, who performed with his puppet Marty. The show focused on fun and faith, teaching kids about values, kindness, and staying away from bad influences. Ronald William Brown, the man behind the Ron character, was also active in his local Largo, Florida church community. He regularly hosted puppet shows, gave kids rides to church in the church van, and even invited them over for pizza before Bible study. To many parents, he seemed kind and trustworthy, exactly the type of person they wanted influencing their children. The show quickly became popular, with parents loving its wholesome message and kids enjoying the songs, games, and lessons. Soon, Joy Junction expanded nationally, airing on major Christian networks like Trinity Broadcasting and Family Network. It ran for nearly 20 years, from 1979 into the early 2000s, reaching thousands of homes across America. Brown used his platform to teach children about resisting temptation and staying on the right path, all while hiding something much darker behind his wholesome image.
Oh, I
In
bet.
1998,
I bet.
police stopped Brown and found children's underwear in his vehicle. He claimed they were props for his puppets, and authorities let him go with no further action taken. Years passed without incident until
What?
2012, when investigators looking into an online network involved in disturbing activities came across a man from Kansas named Michael Arnett. When they searched his computer, they found highly inappropriate images involving children, some posed in staged settings. But what really stood out were the chat logs. Arnett had been exchanging messages with a man in Florida, and that man was Ronald Brown. The two had been talking for months on a hidden forum, their conversations going beyond possession of inappropriate content to include detailed and graphic discussions involving children. Brown referenced a boy he knew personally from church, speaking of deeply troubling intentions and sharing diagrams and pictures he had secretly taken of the child. On July 19th, 2012,
Wow, man.
authorities raided Brown's home in Largo. What they found was deeply alarming. Thousands of illegal files, some involving deceased children, along with written plans, drawings, and content dating back to 1978, a year before Joy Junction began. Brown was arrested and charged with possession and intent to commit serious harm against a minor. He admitted to the chats but claimed it was all fantasy and that he never planned to act on it. The court didn't believe him, and he was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison, essentially a life sentence given his age and health. In 2020, Brown died in prison at the age of 65 due to complications from a neurological
can never touch a
illness.
kid.
After his arrest, everything connected to Joy Junction went silent. Networks removed all traces of the show with no statements or press releases, and even cast members distanced themselves. For a long time, the show became lost media, with only a few clips surviving, mainly from old VHS tapes uploaded to YouTube. Ronald Brown wasn't just a performer. He was trusted by parents, surrounded by children, and active in the community, which makes this case so disturbing.
Wow, man. Hit those comments, chat.
It was 1992 in Manchester, England, when Bobby Davro, a well-known comedian and TV personality, was filming the final scene of his show, Public Enemy No. 1. Bobby was popular for his high-energy performances, and physical fitness was a big part of his life. His father, Bill Nankivell, was once an Olympic runner, and Bobby stayed active through his work. At 34, Bobby had built his career on fearless physical comedy that often pushed the boundaries of safety. His willingness to endure pain for laughs had made him a household name across Britain, with audiences tuning in specifically to watch him throw himself into increasingly elaborate stunts. The Manchester studio had become his second home over the past 3 years, and the crew had grown accustomed to Bobby's relentless perfectionism and his insistence on performing every stunt himself, rather than using body doubles. Bobby's athletic background gave him confidence in physical challenges that would intimidate other performers. He had trained in gymnastics as a teenager and maintained his flexibility through daily workouts, believing that his conditioning would protect him from serious injury. His colleagues often marveled at his ability to bounce back from minor bumps and bruises that would sideline other entertainers for days. This particular filming day had proceeded smoothly, with Bobby completing several demanding sequences without complaint or hesitation. The scene they were filming was meant to be lighthearted. Bobby was locked into a wooden stocks prop, his head and hands sticking through the holes, while his fellow entertainers Keith Chegwin, Lionel Blair, and Jim Bowen threw tomatoes at him. It was supposed to be harmless fun, the kind of physical comedy that Bobby was known for. But the prop wasn't secure, and Bobby had to balance himself on a box because the floor beneath him was hard concrete. The setup seemed routine, just another day of filming comedy sketches with his colleagues. Bobby had performed countless physical stunts throughout his career without incident, and this particular scene was supposed to be one of the easier ones.
What do you think, chat? This don't look very safe. I don't know what you think's gonna happen here, but something don't look right. Something just don't look right. Oh my gosh.
Wooden stocks were meant to hold him in
Write in
place
what you
while his
think's gonna
friends
happen
pelted
on
him
the
with
comments.
tomatoes for laughs, creating the kind of slapstick humor that audiences loved. Suddenly, Bobby lost his balance. With his arms trapped in the wooden restraints, he couldn't stop himself from falling. He hit the ground face first, and Keith Chegwin later said the sound of Bobby's head hitting the concrete was one of the worst he'd ever heard. Thankfully, Bobby managed to turn his head slightly mid-fall, which likely protected him from even worse injuries, but he still cut his chin open and briefly lost consciousness. He was rushed to the hospital, and doctors were surprised to find that he hadn't broken his nose or lost any teeth. However, he suffered a neck injury from the impact and was diagnosed with whiplash.
Oh,
He was
he's
told
lucky.
to rest, but although filming had finished, the pain in his neck continued and spread to other areas of his body. Bobby later visited an osteopath who used physical therapy to ease his symptoms. Recovery took about 6 weeks, and he eventually regained movement, but the pain never fully went away. For a while, he couldn't even do basic exercises like sit-ups, and even years later, Bobby still deals with pain in his neck and upper back. Long car rides are difficult, and sometimes he experiences arm pain and headaches caused by nerve pressure. The fall was never aired, but the BBC now uses the clip for training purposes to show how fast accidents can happen, even in a controlled setting. Bobby never received compensation for what happened, as at the time, it wasn't common to file injury claims like it is today.
Gee, comments. Hit those comments, chat.
It was December 8th, 2016, and the morning sun streamed through the windows of the KXAN News studio in Austin, Texas. as Patricia Williams prepared for another day of delivering the news to her beloved community. At 51, the veteran morning news anchor had become a fixture in Austin households for over 15 years, her warm personality and genuine
Man,
care for local
15
stories
years?
making her a trusted voice that thousands of viewers relied on to start their day. Patricia had built her career on covering community celebrations, local charity drives, and the human interest stories that connected neighbors across the sprawling Texas capital. That December morning, Patricia was excited to cover the holiday season's most heartwarming stories. The show's lineup included segments about local toy drives, holiday charity events, and year-end community celebrations that brought Austin residents together. Her co-anchors and production crew had worked with her for years, creating a family-like atmosphere in the newsroom where Patricia's infectious laughter and mentoring spirit made everyone feel valued and appreciated.
What do you think's gonna happen, chat? Write in the comments. What do you think's gonna happen? She gonna fall off her chair or something, or a light's gonna come down and hit her in the head? I mean, we know something's gonna happen. What is the horrific or horrifying moment is going to happen right now? Write in the comments. See if you get it right.
But for several weeks, Patricia had been struggling with severe headaches that seemed to worsen with each passing day. The pain would strike suddenly during editorial meetings, forcing her to excuse herself to find a quiet place to recover. She attributed the symptoms to work stress and the demanding schedule of morning television, which required her to wake at 3:30 a.m. and maintain high energy levels throughout the broadcast. Patricia had always been dedicated to her craft, often working through minor illnesses and personal challenges to ensure her viewers received reliable news coverage. Her colleagues noticed she seemed more tired than usual, occasionally
Yeah, you
pausing
think?
mid-sentence during rehearsals or appearing momentarily confused when reviewing teleprompter scripts. Patricia dismissed their concerns with her characteristic smile, insisting she just needed more sleep and perhaps a vacation after the holiday season. The production team had no idea that their beloved anchor was experiencing the early warning signs of a catastrophic medical emergency that would unfold in front of thousands of viewers. During a
Oh
live
no.
interview segment about local holiday charities, Patricia was speaking with a representative from the Austin Food Bank about their Christmas meal distribution program. The conversation was flowing naturally as Patricia asked thoughtful questions about volunteer opportunities and donation needs. Then, without warning, she suddenly stopped speaking mid-sentence, her words trailing off as she stared blankly at the camera with a confused expression that immediately alarmed her co-anchor. Patricia appeared disoriented and lost, her usual professional composure replaced by obvious distress as she struggled to understand what was happening to her. She began speaking incoherently, her words slurred and disconnected as her co-anchor tried desperately to continue the interview and maintain some semblance of normalcy. The camera operators and production
Come
crew
on.
watched in horror
Show it.
as Patricia's condition rapidly deteriorated before their eyes. Then Patricia collapsed at the news desk during the live broadcast, her body going limp as she fell forward onto the papers and coffee mug that had been part of her morning routine for
What?
15 years. Viewers across Austin watched in shock as paramedics arrived on set and began emergency treatment, their professional urgency contrasting sharply with the cheerful holiday decorations that still adorned the studio. The station eventually cut to commercial, but thousands had already witnessed the medical emergency unfold in real time. Patricia was rushed to the hospital where she was diagnosed with a massive stroke that had caused irreversible brain damage. Despite the medical team's best efforts, she died 3 days later,
Wow.
surrounded by family members who had flown in from across the country. The morning show went off the air for a week as the team grieved and processed the traumatic loss of their colleague and friend. Viewers flooded social media with tributes, sharing how Patricia had been part of their daily routines for years, her presence providing comfort and connection in an increasingly disconnected world. A journalism
Jeez.
scholarship was established in her name at the University of Texas to support aspiring broadcast.
Man, that's like, Chad, that's like she worked herself to death. Like, she needed sleep. She been just working and working and working and working. You know, her boss is telling her, you need to get some sleep. You need to rest, man. You look really out of it. You know, and that really, it's really bad, man. That what we do to ourselves, man, to make money, and the way we look at life, and Like we don't care for this body the way we should. We should that we know that food. And you may not know this, but food is medicine. You know, the better you eat, the better your body is, the better nutrients it gets when you work. And I'm learning this, man, working out and exercising, how so important it is. And on top of that, rest, man. You can't do any of those things right unless you are resting, unless you are getting at least 7 to 9 hours a day of sleep. The average American gets 6 to 7 hours a day. And that's because you have to rest. And for some people, that may not be enough because stress, tired, and being stressed out on something together is a deadly combination for anybody. And that's how strokes, heart attacks, and all these things, too much of that together will kill you. Literally kill you. Anxiety, people can actually die from anxiety, just being overwhelmed. And it just overwhelms their whole system. And that they say that's stupid. That's they have to have something else. No, there's people that have actually died from exhaustion, man. Think about it.
Journalists who shared her passion for community storytelling. It was May
Comments.
23rd, 2016, when 34-year-old Cameron Blake positioned his mobile broadcasting unit along a desolate stretch of highway outside Moore, Oklahoma. Cameron worked as a meteorologist for a regional news station, known for his fearless storm coverage and ability to make complex weather patterns understandable to viewers. His childhood experience surviving a tornado drove his obsession with understanding these violent storms. Beside him sat 28-year-old Peter Webb, his camera operator, who had voiced concerns about their proximity to the developing supercell. Peter was cautious by nature, but he trusted Cameron's experience and deferred to his judgment, even as the radar showed the storm
Oh hell
intensifying at
no.
an alarming rate. The afternoon sky had turned an ominous shade of green-gray. Cameron had positioned their modified SUV facing east to capture the storm's approach, explaining the rotation patterns to viewers watching at home.
What?
Among those viewers was his wife, Jennifer, 7 months pregnant with their
Oh
first child.
come
The
on.
tornado touched down
Are you
approximately 1
kidding
mile
me?
southwest of their position, appearing as a dark wedge-shaped column. Cameron's voice remained steady.
He's got a wife at home, dangerous job. On top of it, he films it and lets his wife be in on the live chat, and he's about to put his life at the edge to get a good picture, a good, something, to put on, YouTube and, whatever, but he's not thinking of the risk. Okay, it's a risk. He's obviously settled that because he's going to do it. But to allow your wife to, in those precious times, to be there watching it is not cool at all, man. It's one thing that she loses her husband, and in a tragedy or whatever. That's in that alone is just overdo somebody. He's carrying the guy's baby. She's worried. Obviously, she's worried and concerned because I'm sure they had some type of discussion, of the pay and who's the company, because these were things that I'm sure he just wasn't very clear on. And what's he do? He starts filming in the most worst of conditions. That's crazy.
He narrated the
That's
touchdown
crazy.
for nearly 15 seconds, his professional instinct overriding
Look at
everything
that.
else. The funnel
All it
moved
would
northeast
take
at
is
35
one
miles
little
per hour,
board
closing
to
the
go
distance
right through him.
rapidly. Debris began pelting the vehicle.
Straw,
Branches, gravel, and
sticks
roofing material creating violent hammering
become
sounds.
bullets.
Peter shouted that they needed to leave immediately, but Cameron continued broadcasting. The tornado's outer circulation reached them, and the SUV began rocking violently. as gusts likely pushed 120 to 130
Oh
miles
my
per hour near the vehicle.
gosh.
Hail and small
In
debris
a small
hammered the
car.
glass. A broken 2x4 stud, roughly 4 feet long, punched through the driver's side
That's
window
it.
at an estimated 100 to 120 miles
Like,
per
what
hour.
I just say?
The tempered glass exploded into pellets. The board fragmented on the window frame, and the leading segment struck Cameron's left temple, causing a
Oh,
depressed skull fracture with bone driven into the brain.
instantly
A
dead.
second shard of aluminum siding scissored through the windshield and tore across his right clavicle, lacerating the subclavian
Oh,
artery. Bright arterial bleeding pooled across the seat within seconds.
oh.
Peter managed to accelerate away from the tornado's path, screaming Cameron's name. The
Whoa.
mounted camera, streaked with blood and debris, continued recording, its distorted footage catching only fragments of what happened inside the vehicle.
Oh my God.
Cameron's breathing became irregular and gasping, indicating severe brain trauma and imminent death. Peter drove for approximately 2 minutes before pulling over, pressing his jacket against Cameron's shoulder wound. But the damage was catastrophic. Blood had soaked through Cameron's clothing and pooled on the floor.
Oh,
His face had turned pale gray, his lips blue. The irregular gasping
God.
breaths came further apart, then stopped entirely. Peter felt for a pulse but found nothing. The live feed continued transmitting until the station finally cut to the studio. The tornado had deposited debris across the main highway,
Man.
blocking emergency routes.
This guy,
Responders
man.
reached the location nearly 20 minutes later and pronounced Cameron dead at the scene from massive head trauma and blood loss. The
God.
station faced immediate backlash for not cutting the feed sooner. Peter resigned 3 weeks later. 11 weeks after his death, Jennifer delivered their daughter, Sophia, at full term and filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the station.
Man, Chad, hit the comments. Listen, when people have to understand these stories. Anything going over 100 miles an hour when coming up to 110, 115, 125, 120, whatever. Anything that's flying through that air. I'm talking. They have seen straws, like little sticks, go through like metal, glass, tin. Think about our bodies. Our bodies are not harder than tin. They're soft. We're just like, big old candy bears. You know what I mean? Anything, a stick 4 or 5, 6 inches is flying, and it's nothing but debris, rocks. I mean, cars are flying, tires are flying. Anything that can just be lifted up off the ground, it's going to be part of that whole storm. And all what hit him, man, it was a couple sticks. Literally hit him in the temple. A stick, a fence, piece of a fence, boom, hit the temple. You hit the temple hard enough, you can kill somebody. And I'm telling you, man, it hurts. I've been hitting the temple, and you don't just recover from when someone hits you hard like that, or something, or someone. But something at 120, 25, 30 miles an hour. Oh my gosh, my Lord.
It was November 8th, 2017, when 41-year-old
Let's
Lydia
sub
Grant
up,
arrived
chat.
at a
Let's
local
get those
television
subs
studio
in.
in Toronto for what should have been a routine cooking segment. Lydia was a culinary instructor who had been teaching French cuisine for years and making occasional appearances on a small regional lifestyle program that aired weekday mornings to a modest local audience. She had never experienced a serious incident on set before. She was known for her warm personality and expertise in classic techniques requiring open flame preparation. That morning, she wore a flowing silk blend blouse in burgundy paired with her chef's apron and her signature pearl necklace, a gift from her late mother. The segment focused on preparing crêpe Suzette, a classic French dessert requiring tableside flambé with Grand Marnier liqueur. Producers had debated cutting the flambé portion due to safety concerns, but Lydia insisted it was her signature. The live segment began with Lydia preparing orange butter sauce in a copper pan. She added approximately 4 ounces of Grand Marnier to the hot pan and tilted it toward the gas flame to ignite the alcohol vapors. The alcohol ignited as expected, thin blue flames flickering across the sauce.
Oh.
Lydia reached for a serving plate while holding the flaming pan, turning slightly away from the camera. Her silk blend blouse sleeve, which had come unbuttoned at the cuff, draped forward and made contact with the flames. It ignited instantly, flames racing up her right sleeve from wrist to shoulder in approximately 2 seconds as the fabric fused and burned against her skin. Lydia gasped and dropped the copper pan, which spilled flaming liquid across the kitchen island.
God.
She instinctively began batting at the flames with her left hand, which caused the fire to spread to her left sleeve as well.
Oh my
Derek rushed toward her with a kitchen towel,
God.
but
He's
hesitated,
just
unsure
creating
how
a
to help.
worse.
Reached Lydia's hair, which had been styled with aerosol hairspray 30 minutes earlier. Her hair ignited in a sudden flash, flames spreading
Oh
across her
my
scalp and down to her
God.
face and neck. Her initial screams turned to choking, gasping sounds.
Lord Jesus. She went from spilling it a little bit or catching on fire, and then her sleeve, then she takes it and put it in the other hand, and then and then spills a little bit on the table, and then spreads on the table, the oil that's on fire. My God, it just went on and on and on. I mean, that's like a show. It's not funny, but it's almost like a comedy show with a little edge on it, Like, oops, oh no, now I'm on fire. Oops, oh, I just spilled oil all over the table. Now this table's on fire. And every time she turned around, it was something new. I mean, to the point this lady's now, her hair catches on fire. Now her hair is on fire, her sleeves are, and now she's burning herself. Oh my God. And she keeps touching a pan full of grease that's on fire. All you do is you put it in the sink and you throw the water on that, and you turn it upside down and you hit that water, man, and step away. You do not want to throw water while you're holding a pan with hot oil and put water directly on it with you holding it. No, you want to drop that pan in the sink and you want to turn that thing on and you just jump back. Or you put it in the sink and you throw a bunch of salt all over it. The salt will put that fire out. I'm telling you. Instead, she lit herself on fire, chat.
As the heat seared her airways and burned her facial skin.
Oh, got into her lungs.
Fell sideways onto the studio floor. Derek threw the towel over her upper body, but the towel itself caught fire from the intensity of the burning synthetic fabric. James grabbed a fire extinguisher but fumbled with the safety pin. By the time he deployed the extinguisher, Lydia had sustained second and third degree burns across approximately 38% of her body, including her face, scalp, neck, both arms, and upper chest.
Oh my God, Lord.
Conscious, making hoarse sounds as she struggled to breathe. The burned skin on her face had begun sloughing off, and her airways were rapidly swelling from thermal injury. Paramedics arrived and recognized the severity of her airway burns. Her breathing had become labored and wheezing. They performed an emergency intubation in the studio to secure her airway before transport. While beginning fluid resuscitation, she was transported to the regional burn center in critical condition, with dropping blood pressure and signs of shock. Lydia Grant died that afternoon from complications of severe burn injuries, including respiratory failure and cardiac arrest. The network immediately suspended all cooking segments involving open flame. Derek required psychological counseling and took a 3-month leave. Though the station never released the footage, a short off-screen recording briefly circulated in local culinary circles online before being removed.
Chat, all she was doing was cooking. She was cooking with one pan. And she was a cook, supposedly. Oh My Lord, what is going on in this world, man? Everybody just acts like they can do anything and everything, and look what happens. I can't believe that. What? That's horrific, man.
It was September 22nd, 2019, when 47-year-old Dominic Hayes arrived at the Riverside Tower construction site in Portland, Oregon, to conduct a safety inspection for the city's building department. Dominic was a Canadian structural inspector contracted under an international peer review compliance agreement, with years of experience evaluating high-rise projects across
Wow.
North America. Known for his meticulous attention to detail, he was specifically requested to assess the tower's steel framework before the next phase of construction could proceed. The Riverside Tower was a 40-story mixed-use building that had reached the 28th floor when concerns arose about welding quality in the steel beam connections. Dominic had reviewed contractor reports showing some irregularities, but had been told by the construction foreman that all critical joints had been re-inspected and certified safe for
Yeah,
his
but that's what you
walkthrough.
were told.
His colleague Sarah had questioned the timing of the inspection, but Dominic trusted the contractor's assurances. The inspection team included project manager Lisa Rodriguez, safety coordinator Jake Morrison, and a building department photographer. The assessment required Dominic to examine beam connections on the 28th floor while documenting any visible defects in the steel framework. The inspection began with Dominic positioned near the building's northeast corner, explaining
Uh-oh.
proper welding techniques while moving systematically along the exposed steel beams. A sudden metallic shift rang through the steel frame. Not a clean ping, but the deep scraping sound of a connection slipping under load. At the time, the inspection team assumed it was just thermal movement in the beams, a common sound on unfinished floors, and no one recognized it as the onset of structural failure. Investigators later determined that the noise originated from a critical load-bearing joint, where substandard welding had left a hidden flaw. Once the connection slipped, the compromised weld fractured instantly under stress. Within moments, the failure spread to adjacent connections, causing a localized collapse limited to the northeast corner between the
Wow.
28th and 26th floors. The drop halted when the load was redistributed across lateral bracing and intact
Oh
crossbeams, preventing full progressive
my
collapse of the tower.
God.
The floor began sagging toward the center. Dominic lost his footing as the steel decking buckled beneath him. A primary support beam twisted and separated from its connection, and the entire
Twisted.
northeast section of the 28th floor gave way. The floor section dropped in a pancaking motion with Dominic falling through the failing structure. He dropped approximately 15 feet through twisted steel and debris
Oh.
before his body struck a horizontal I-beam at roughly 20 miles per hour.
Oh.
The impact broke his right arm, several ribs, and caused internal bleeding, but he remained alert and tried to grab onto the beam as the collapse continued. The partial floor failure extended downward through 2 additional levels before stabilizing,
Oh.
sending debris and structural members cascading through the open framework. As his body fell through the dust and twisted steel, the site's documentation drone, hovering in a fixed survey position, only caught a brief, obscured glimpse of movement before losing visual in the debris cloud. Dominic's body struck a concrete foundation wall at ground level at an estimated 45 miles per hour.
Oh.
His descent had been partially slowed by secondary impacts and structural interference during the collapse, preventing a full free-fall acceleration. The impact dislocated his shoulder and fractured his collarbone, while his torso compressed against the wall, causing severe internal injuries, including a punctured lung and damaged spleen. He sustained catastrophic
Oh.
internal injuries and was likely
Man,
killed on
I'm
impact.
hurting now.
The collapsed floor section crashed down seconds afterward, burying much of the area in twisted steel and concrete debris. The drone, still hovering in its fixed survey position, passively recorded the aftermath. In the wide-angle feed, Dominic's body could be seen partially visible among the wreckage. Emergency responders needed over an hour to safely navigate the unstable debris field. Dominic Hayes was pronounced dead at the scene, along with 3 construction workers.
Wow, Chad. That
To remember,
is. Listen, we're gonna cut it here. We're gonna cut this up because it's a long film, but listen, we got a little bit more. We got some more to go get through this. Listen, hit those comments. Let me know what you think about this type of filming. We're gonna get into some other ones too, uh, that I really liked. Um, so hopefully you enjoyed this. Hit the subscribe button, man. If you enjoyed it and you like what we're doing here on this channel, again, we do the good, bad, and the ugly, but we keep it real. We always telling the truth, and we look for real stuff. We're not looking for any of that AI stuff, fake news, whatever you want to call it. Listen, man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for checking us out. Stay with us, man. Join the movement, man. Here are Truth Tellers, all right? We love each and every one of you guys that come on here with us. So listen, man, let's go ahead and let's go and